Welcome to Media Talks TV. This is Tony J, back at it again with another video. And, I just wanted to say, happy May. Um, how do I jump into this? Uh, what you're seeing that's going on in the news is history repeating itself. And I know people don't want to have the hard discussion about this. In 2 more days, we will be celebrating the anniversary of the Kent State Massacre. And with that, I think it's fair for me to say that what's going on in the media and how the United States is approaching student protests is going to go down in history, and they're getting it wrong yet again. Now, I know some people might think, whether you think it's anti Semitism or not, that's beside the point. Allow me to put the politics aside for the minute, for just a brief moment. And let's think about this for a second. We have a group of adults that were 18, 19, 20, not so long ago, 50, maybe 60 years ago. And, I've had my gripes with the baby boomer generation. I understand they made sacrifices for all of us, including myself. But I find them to be the biggest bag of fucking hypocrites that we've come to know at this point. And the younger generation in my age bracket, we're starting to realize, you know, these are the same people that are talking about the protests and how they're wrong are the same sons of bitches that were protesting Vietnam yet 53 years ago. But they say, oh, this is different. This is different. But it's not. It's the same thing. What the younger generation right now sees is blatant genocide. And I don't care what side of the aisle you stand on, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat. Genocide and killing a whole group of innocent civilians is wrong. It is against the rules of war. Even the UN has said this is wrong. And history right now will judge America by the imagery that they've seen on television, how we have labeled an entire generation of kids as being anti-Israel or anti-Semite. Whether you believe it or not, we can be critical of an injustice without it being weaponized against students, innocent students, because that's what they are. They have shown us that they have a grievance about genocide. That's it. But here we are, we have the older adults and also some politicians that feel as though this is wrong on the basis of it's against Israel. But I disagree. This is the same generation of adults who right now they say that this protest is wrong and these people should be locked up, these people should be expelled. And they're talking exactly like what their parents were talking when they saw themselves in the midst of disagreeing with the Vietnam War, that we shouldn't be in Vietnam and that we shouldn't be out there killing innocent Vietnamese people in the Malay massacre. These are the same people that grew up and took a stand against the Vietnam War, against President Johnson. You have a whole group of them saying, well, this is different. It's not different. What makes it different? Only difference is the cops haven't killed those students. That's the only difference. And I'm surprised with what happened at UCLA yesterday and understanding that now it's it's like we're seeing a rash of student protests all across the country. And this is kind of like this is kind of like our version of Vietnam in a sense. This is our Vietnam moment. And these are the same group of people, the people that oppose these students from protesting, are the same ones that protested against a war they believe that was wrong. I don't care about the politics of this. I'm not here to spout whether, you for Israel or you for Palestine. I'm for right and wrong. And if you know that genocide is wrong, then what question is there to be had? If you believe that killing is wrong, then what question is there to be had? I just watched a video on online and I was quite disturbed by it. It was on MSNBC. This is the type of thing in this generation that younger people are getting tired of. This the older adults, Gen X and the baby boomers, talking down and basically denigrating a whole group of young people because they think that they've had, you know, whether you believe it or not, they think that they don't have the type of experience that they've had. And of course, every generation goes through that. When the boomers had it, it was the silent generation. you know, shitting on the boomers because they didn't want to fight in the war, and they called them draft dodgers. And then now, these same people that were protesting against the Vietnam War are now the elite who have amassed great wealth in this country and have had many opportunities. And now they're using their power and their prestige and their privilege to denigrate a whole nother generation below them. And the troubling thing is the hypocrisy that I see in the media, and especially on MSNBC. Um, this guy named Joe Scarborough, it he said something very insulting, and I was disgusted at it, but at the same time, I kind of knew where where he was going with it. But you take a look at the clip and see what you think. I'm gonna load the clip up right now.
I'd like to think that what the students feel about the university is important enough that maybe we could bring this university to a halt and really reorder its priorities. But at the moment, it doesn't seem that this is possible at all. We may halt classes for a few days. We may even halt it for a spring. But ultimately, we don't change the foundation of this university, which is essentially an enormous business corporation.
That was a Columbia University student speaking to NBC News in 1968 about ongoing protests at the school in opposition to the Vietnam War.
I've got to say, it makes as much sense in 2024 having 18 or 19-year-old people running college campuses as it did in 1968, which is to say, doesn't make any sense at all. And you do wonder where the adults are, the adults that are supposed to be running the university, the amount of money that they are paid to educate students, and they can't allow students to go to class because a small subset of those students and outside agitators want to shut down the camp. Where are the adults? It's staggering. Not just to me. I know I'm a conservative. Not just to me, but to 90% of Americans. They want to know where the adults are at Columbia. They want to know where the adults are at Penn. They want to know where the adults are at Harvard. They want to know where the adults are at all of these college campuses where they're letting their students and outside agitators run across the campus, shut down debate, scream whenever anybody tries to talk reason to them, shout genocidal chants, hold up signs pointing to Jews saying Hamas's next victims, holding up signs talking about the final solution, chanting constantly from the river to the sea. You know what from the river to the sea is? If you don't, that's all right. Most of the students chanting it don't understand that they are chanting genocidal comments.
All right, joining us now.
They want to wipe out all Jews, and they want to destroy the state of Israel, and they want to kill Jews and push them. See, they are Hamas on college campuses when they chant that.
Some of them may not even know what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the point.
But the adults there do.
Yes, they do.
And yet, this, by the way, this is a long time coming. This has been coming since the 1960s. And now the people that were burning down college campuses, the people that were taking over presidents' offices, those people are now on the faculty senate, in the faculty senate, trying to encourage these students to do the same. They helped elect Nixon. I guess they want to elect Donald Trump in 24. Good on you guys.
So after seeing the clip, one would think, why do we have adults like this? The same type of adults that did the exact same thing, but then they grow up and then they start judging their children for doing the same exact thing that they did. And he's talking about, where are the parents? Where are the parents? How could these students take over a whole college? And it's troubling just to see this, because it's like history repeating itself. You know, we just left April, and in April, a lot of things happened during the last week of April. I don't know what it is, but it seems like April is always the time where the last week of April is always the time where riots and social change starts to happen. Because, you know, a couple of days ago, we had the anniversary of the LA riots. Then before that, we, of course, in my city, we had it's been 8 years since the Baltimore riots that happened in Baltimore. It seems like the uprisings always happen in April, all the time. It's weird. The King riots happen in April, and it's just a lot of other things that start to happen going from April into May. But May 4th is very interesting, because May 4th is the anniversary of the Kent State massacre. You have all these things that have happened in the past with student protests. Even going back to 68 with the Orangeburg massacre, which was another one. But the issue that we're having right now in the media is, they're telling that these students that they're wrong for protesting, that they're bad people, that they're evil in some respects for protesting genocide. And that there's a certain level of righteousness to it that people don't understand, but the media is pushing a narrative constantly. And sometimes it's hard to listen. But when you step back and when you listen to CNN, when you listen to MSNBC, all these outlets, Fox News, they keep pushing this idea that the students are protesting against anti-Semitism, or protesting, well, not against anti-Semitism, excuse me, that they're protesting for Hamas, which could be furthest from the truth. How do we get this far down the rabbit hole that one thing automatically means the same thing? It's like they already have a bias towards these students, you know. And I never understood that, but for some odd reason, I guess I guess I guess you could say that history is going to severely judge how we view these protests. But I'm hoping that the students that did do the protest, that they didn't severely harm their own future because, you know, if there's anything I've learned about the past is that if you're protesting something against the government can and will do anything to track you down and destroy your life. The Panthers understood it. That's why they're no longer here. Weather Underground understood it. They're no longer here. The fear that I have for these protests, and it's going to get worse when come the summer. This is going to look like Chicago '68 all over again, with this massive protest. And now it just seems like the media is sitting down saying, well, oh, well, what these students are doing is wrong. We have to protect the other students. I'm not going to say the word, but you know, they're making this out to be something that is not. And it seems like the media is extrapolating it to seem like it's anti you know what. And you know, history is going to judge us on that. And I would say to the students, you know, because they're making a big sacrifice right now for a cause. And when you make a sacrifice for a cause, you had to be really, really willing to die for it. And that's the only thing that I will say, you know, I agree with the students protesting, but at the same time, do they understand that once they protest, you're making an ultimate sacrifice to lose something in your life. And you understand that you're willing to give that up for a bigger cause. Most of this new generation, unfortunately, does not understand consequences. Sometimes we have somewhat, well, not all of us, become a little bit more impatient, and I could understand why this new generation is impatient, because I'm a part of that as well. I'm a part of that impatience. Being in my 30s, you know, and then seeing the ones that's like 20, 25, 22, 18. I think it's much more deeper than that. And I don't think the media is really focused on it. It's much deeper than just Palestine. A lot of these students, I mean, me included, some of us will never be able to afford a home. Some of us will not be able to afford a car. Some of them also working two jobs and still not getting a footing in society. But when we have those conversations with the older generation, they say, "Well, you're entitled. You're you're spoiled. You've had every opportunity." Da 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 da. And then you see how the game is really played, and then you go out into the real world, you do everything right, and then it looks like somebody moved the goalpost and rigged the system even more to keep certain groups of people from actually achieving anything. And everybody says, well, you know, you got to work hard. You gotta put in the sweat equity. You got to do this and do that. But nobody really understands that. Nobody if you sit down and you talk to somebody that's 65 or 70, they think, well, it's easy for you to get a job, but they don't know the fuckery that goes on at these jobs. How you're sitting back and you have to do 2, 3 round interviews, or you go to apply for a job, they call you, and then you show up, and then they sit back and you're commuting, you're spending your own hard-earned money, and you do the interview and they don't call you back and let you know whether or not you got the job. They say that the economy is doing good, but then who is it good for? Because the low level paying jobs, they don't pay enough for you to have an apartment. A 1 bedroom apartment costs $2,200 depending on what city you live in. Especially in my area, which is the DMV, most apartments getting closer and closer to the DC region is 2,200 for 1 bedroom. And you have somebody like Joe Biden saying, well, the economy is doing good, people are making money, people are working hard, but then he despises the youth just like everybody else. And I'm telling you and I'm explaining that with these protests, this is just a canary in the coal mine of what's about to happen come November. And I'm not going to call it here. I'm just going to let the people to decide. You know, because a lot of the youth right now, they're frustrated because along with the $90 billion aid package that was sent to both Russia, well, not Ukraine and Israel, you got $90 billion, but you can't afford a home in the United States. Think about that for a second. I mean, like I'm not the only person in this position. There's a lot of other younger people that are in this position. And then he ends up going to cancel TikTok, where people have where you're cutting off other people's options to make money. You've already like basically snuffed off a pipeline to advance people's careers. And then it's the same generation, these same older people that say, get a job. And then you get a job, they don't want to pay you what you're worth. They won't want to, they cheat you out of your hours, cheat you out of your pension. I mean, a job today really ain't worth shit. But yet, the distraction right now is the protest. The distraction right now is the students protesting, but not what is it that we can do for the youth so they don't feel like they're left out of the American dream. And a lot of these youths, they feel like they're left out of it. You see smug people, just like Joe Scarborough on MSNBC and many others on Fox, people like Dave Ramsey, and they all make one-off generalizations, broad generalizations about a whole generation of students or kids that are trying their best to get a footing in this country. And it seems like nobody hears them. And a lot of these youths right now, they're going to have to fight now. A lot of these youths that are protesting, they're going to have to run for elected office. You know, just think about like David Hogg for a minute. Like I know one of these days David Hogg is going to run for president. I know because I could see the fire in his eyes. Those are the people that you have to watch out for. Those are the ones that want to be in a position to change. And we're seeing it right now. We're bear witnessing to change right now. And it's going to rear its ugly head come November. I promise you that. Because the young are getting tired and they want change. They want change. They don't want things to stay the same. They don't want any more wars. That's the whole purpose of the protests. Stop sending them weapons. Stop funding military. Stop having these big fucking military aid packages when people are struggling to make ends meet, when people are drugged up and out of it on the streets. They see these things and then they see the contrast of what the politicians are doing and they're saying, look, why is this happening? And why do they say they don't have enough money for this, but then they have enough money for that? And they're seeing the hypocrisy laid bare in front of our eyes. They're seeing it right now, and they don't want to be a part of the process that is America right now. They don't like the two-party system. They're tired of it. And I think that's what the deeper frustration is with a lot of these younger adults. My generation, we played along with it because we thought that we had everything, and then before you knew it, 9/11 happened. We couldn't criticize the president at the time because then it would be like, well, if you're against the president, then you're for the terrorists. They played that fucking book. Well, if you criticize the president of the United States, then you're against the war effort. You're for the terrorists. And isn't this the same fucking playbook that they're doing? Well, if you're for Palestine, you're anti-Semitic. If you're not, you don't stand with Israel, you're this, you're that, you're un-American. Then they attach the whole thing of the protesters as un-American because they don't want to fight for their country or they don't want to support their country. That's how we getting down. This is how we're getting down that rabbit hole again that we went down in 68. Everything repeats itself for a reason. And I feel like a lot of these youths have a grievance with the United States right now. It's not just the protests. It's layers to this shit. And in understanding it, just like we understood Kent State, Orangeburg, and a lot of these other protests that went on during 1968. It's just a matter of time before we reach the point of no return. And then something like this happens again. I don't need to tell you. I don't need to tell you what's going to happen because it's already happened. It's just a matter of time before it does. And once we go back to that ugly place, then we make the same mistakes. This has been Media Talks TV. I'm Tony J, and I'm out.